ladies and gentlemen. We will be going over the different video options, or not the video options, the calculator options that you have that you're going to want to do as the AP Calculus exam will go. And as well as how to use these calculator things. I will reference some of the questions you're going to want to be able to do. And how you're going to want to go about doing things. If you went through the free response questions from 2015, basically you had a couple different things that you needed to do. You had to find a point of intersection, g of x, and all sorts of different things like that. Now the problem is, in this question, which wasn't particularly a difficult type of question, but if it's a time-consuming. So I'm going to be coming back to this guy a lot because a lot of the stuff that we can do is going to be in here. But the first thing that you should always do, and this should be the first thing that you do when you take the test. So we put everything in radians because you want everything in radians, and everything that you do is in radians in calculus anyway. Then you want to create a new document because you don't want the mess that's there from other documents. So create a new document and do not save it. Because all that does is eat up memory, and you don't want e to the x squared minus 2x. Now oops, that's not it. There it is. And then you get this graph. Now, the nice thing about this is exponent, so you have to arrow out of it. Then you have minus 6.5 x squared plus 6x, and then I think it's plus 2. And so here are our two functions. And I want this endpoint because I know that now we can see that g of x is this graph that has the I know that's f and that's g, and that's f. Oh, no, that's wrong. That's g, and that's f. That's f. You can go to points and lines, or you can go to analyze graph. That might be easiest. Actually, no. No, hold on. You're in the graph. You go menu, and so now we have the entire picture in just a couple clicks, as opposed to just the 1 point. Now, 1.3 might not be. Now, another really cool function is the calculator has the ability to solve if I hit variable, do you see F1 and F2? Well, we figured out that F1 we typed in as our function f. So if and that's going to be equal to, hit variable, I want f2 of x. And it comes back to the whole idea that the calculator's smart and dumb all at the same point. You're going to solve this for x. But here's a problem that you're going to run into. You hit enter, it's going to give you the first one. And you keep on hitting enter, it's just giving you the first one. But one thing that you can do, I got to escape back to get to the actual. And what this is going to do is it's going to say, this is what it means. I want solution closest to 1. So if there are multiple points to look at the number 1, I want the calculator to focus at number 1 and find the intersection point that's closest to number 1, because that intersection point is closest to number 1. We found it on the graph. The graph said it was at 1. Not only do I have it stored where I never have to type the number again. To store something, it'd be control, then you hit the variable key. Notes. On your gold sheet, this is kind of like cheat notes for, like study guide notes for the AP exam. Equation and try to store it somewhere. It doesn't work that way. So you can only store numbers by using the store function. And you notice when we hit variable, now I have A, which is a number, and you can see 0, 1, 2 right above it. F1 is a function, F2 is a function. So basically, if you want to store an equation or a function, you have to actually go into a graph and type in the graph, and it'll store it for you. So it's just a separate way of storing. That would be the variable. The base of things that you've stored, you're going to hit the variable key, the var key. And that'll be able to, you'll be able to pick whatever you need to out of there. So if I hit A, it's going to give me my number. It really using this whole big number right here. And it's actually not, it's using more than that. It's using the exact value for A. So that makes it a better situation. So now, if we jump back over to here, and I want to calculate the integral from 0, so for part A to find the area, I want to integrate this from 0 to A, and I want this to be on the bottom. But when it switches from top to bottom, I have to do a brand new one, so I'm going to go A to 2 of f of x minus g of x dx. Right. Now, in this one, you want to go to calculus, and we want a numerical integral. So you're going to go menu, calculus, numerical integral. I want to go minus. I need f1. So I go f1 of x, and then dx. And that's the first part. And then I want to add on, I forgot to put a plus sign on mine, but I want to add on to 2, and now I need, don't I have to do f1 minus f2? So I need f1 of x minus f2 of x dx. So now, instead of having, they usually round to 3 decimal places. So now for the second one, we know that the second question said, all right, we're in region S, and the cross sections are going to be squares. So this is region S over. Now, why did I square it? Yeah, we're trying to find a volume. The cross section was a square. So why did I take f1 minus f2 and then square it? Yeah, because area of a square is side squared, and we get our answer from there. H is changing. Derivatives. And I can't tell you how happy I am that whenever you hear the word rate that you're thinking of a derivative. So I need h prime of x is going to be equal to f prime of x minus g prime of x. Value of x. 1.8, stop playing with the sinks and put them where they're supposed to be. There you go. Try to keep this at a high school level. And it wants the first derivative. So you can figure out a lot of derivatives if you have the function already typed in. If you wanted to, instead of hitting the variable key, you can type it in at x, if you like that a little bit better. And then it says, evaluate it where x is equal to 1.8. So you don't have to type in it. This part C was only 2 points. You got 1 point for finding out, for basically setting up that h of x was equal to f of x minus g of x, and then h prime was equal to f prime minus g prime. And then you got 1 point for the answer, which was negative 3. Later does derivatives, and they do integrals by approximation, Riemann sums, and all that kind of stuff. So even though that you think you're getting an exact, you're getting a really good one, but it's still an approximation of some kind. Excuse me. If you're going to put a number in, you're going to put a number in the calculator screen. On your calculator screen, if we try to do this on a graph, one big problem that you're going to get, like the derivative, and you want that region right there, you go analyze graph, and you want an integral, and you want, the problem is you have two graphs, and so if you do this one, you have this entire thing, and you have a lot of extra ones, and then you have to calculate another integral and subtract them, and then it becomes a big pain. Unless you wanted to do something like this, create a graph and say function 2 of x minus function 1 of x, and that's the new graph. Analyze graph, we're going to do the integral. The lower bound, we want to write this one in. That's not. We wanted to go to 1.3, which is even tougher to do. So you're not going to want to do it that way at all. You really don't want to do that at all. If you want to see, if you want to try it, oh, for the lower limit, you have to open it up and say it's a 0. And then you got to open up the upper limit and say it's that's 0.997, and that's going to give you your value at that point. That I would not recommend doing that at all. Now, a couple of things that you can do in here. The template key here, you can do derivatives. So you can't do, it won't let you actually do a derivative. You have to kind of do this. It'll let you do a derivative at a point. So you actually have to do all of that. I would actually go through the calculus menu and do a numeric derivative at a point. It's neat. You could do maximums and minimums too. So any questions right now about where you can put in functions, where you can put in numbers, how you can calculate derivatives? And I will tell you the biggest time saver is to type in, for whatever function you're dealing with, type in that function right away. type in the numbers right away, save them and store them, and then if, for example, after you figure out that A was equal to 1.03, make sure you put somewhere on your page that let A be equal to 1.03, the point of intersection. If you don't do that, then if you just say A, the person reading your test is not going to give you any points because they don't know what A is. You might get the answer right. They'll give you a point for the answer, but if you don't know what A is, they can't give you those points. So you have to make sure if you're going to define something, define it on the page. If, for example, even though we know this one's right, if that was wrong and instead of erasing, all you have to do is cross out. If your stuff is wrong, cross it out. They won't read the stuff that's crossed out. They'll only read the stuff that's not crossed out. So if it's a small error, you can erase it. But if it's a big error and you got to restart, like if this whole thing was wrong, you just do that and you can start over. They're not going to look at this. If this was right and you did the whole thing wrong and you crossed out what was right, you're going to get it wrong. Because they're not going to look at this. It's like this doesn't even exist to them anymore. So be careful. Just be careful when you're doing stuff like that. And I'm sure we'll have more as more questions arise. But that's a good start with calculator.